Welcome to Live DAF, your online DAF Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem and welcome back to today's DAF, Bava Kamma DAF Mem Daled. We are holding on Mem Gimel Amud Beis, 5 lines off the top at the bottom of the Amud. V'chein bebein oibabas, right at the 2 dots. The Mishnah says whether an animal attacked an adult or a little boy or girl, v'chein bebein v'chein bebas. So if the animal killed his victim, the animal is now slated for skila. So Bezdin applies the skila form of death to the animal. So it's irrespective of age, whether the victim is an adult or a child. Tana Rabbanan, because the pasuk says so. Oy bein yigach, oy bas yigach. Right. So the same thing happens whether it's an adult or a bein or a bas. We learn from here, we impose skila on the shor, whether he killed a katan or a gadol. Now, why do we need a pasuk for this? Asks the Gemara. We can figure it out on our own. We can just make a simple comparison. Just like when a person attacks another person, right? There is chiyav misa if he kills him. And likewise, if a shor attacks a person, puts him to death, the shor gets skila. So let's compare the two. Just like when a person attacks another person, it doesn't matter whether he killed an adult or a child. Right? We impose chiyav misa on the murderer. Likewise, when a shor attacks a person, it shouldn't make a difference. Age should not be a factor. In addition, we have a kal v'chomer to prove the same. Since when a person attacks another, and the attacker is a katan, right? The murderer is a katan. We don't treat him like an adult. We don't give him chiv misa. And Rashi brings a pasuk. V'ish ki yakin, needs to be an ish, an adult. A katan is not liable for his actions. So, despite the fact that there's that relative leniency when it comes to people attacking each other, still, in terms of the victim's age, we don't differentiate. So if an adult kills another adult, he's chayiv, or if he kills a child, he's chayiv. Certainly a shor who attacks a person, shor ba'adam shor, also by k'tanim kedolim. Here, we treat a young 1-day-old shor just like an adult shor. Rashi brings a gemara, a pasuk, shor a kesef ki yivoled. And we learned that even shor ben yoyma yikaru shor, even a 1-day shor is called a shor. So basically, even if the shor is just born and he attacks a person, he's just as liable as an adult shor who attacked. So he has that relative strictness over human beings. Certainly when it comes to his victim, it shouldn't make a difference whether he attacked a youngster or a older person. So we have two reasons why we would apply skila to the shor, whether he killed a gadol or a katan. One is we just compare it to people attacking each other, and the second point is a kal v'chomer to prove the same. So why do we need a pasuk? Oy vein yigach, oy bas yigach, to be machayev alaktanim kedolim. Says the Gemara, no, you can find room for differentiation between the two things. Loy, even marta adam ba'adam, perhaps adam attacking another adam is different because he has a strictness not found by the shor. Shekain chayev babad varim. He has all those extra payments. He has a tsar, ripoy, doctor bills, loss of wages, and all these things only apply to one person attacking the other, as opposed to an animal who doesn't have those liabilities. So perhaps since he has that leniency, he will have this leniency as well in terms of lack of liability when killing a child. That's why we need the pasuk to include the child. It teaches us the animal's chayiv whether you killed a katan or a gadol. Now, so this pasuk quoted is by a muad. So perhaps, sure, by a muad, we equate the katan to the gadol. But what about a shor tam who killed? Betam minayin. Well, says the Gemara, we can draw a comparison once again to a human being who attacks. Hoil v'chayiv b'ish v'isha. Sorry, so now we're going to compare it to something else. The fact is that a shor tam, right, who kills whether an ish or an isha, right, he gets skila. We had this the other day. We equate the ish victim to the isha victim, makes no difference, right? So we'll say like this: Hoyel v'chiyev b'ish v'isha, v'chiyev b'ben abas. We find that a shor tam who attacks an ish or an isha is chayiv misa, and we also find v'chayiv b'ben abas. We find that by the muad, right? We just established by the muad, whether the animal killed a ben or bas or an adult doesn't matter, right? It's all the same thing. So we find that there are different liabilities when it comes to a shor that attacks people. He's chayiv by the ish v'isha. He's chayiv by the ben or bas. So ma k'shechiyev b'ish v'isha. Just like when he's chayiv upon killing an ish v'isha, there's no difference between whether the animal that attacked was a tam or a muad, because we have the lashon ish v'isha by the tam, right? So there we have no difference between a tam or a muad. Likewise, when the Torah holds him liable for killing even a youngster, we shouldn't draw any line between a tam or a muad. On top of that, we have a kavachomer to prove the same point, that even a shor tam who attacks a ben or bas is chayiv mis. Ma ish v'isha shekein hura koichem benazak. Because look, we find that an ish v'isha who are victims of the shor, they themselves have sort of a kula. They have a weakness. Hura koichem benazak, which basically means if they cause damage, if an ish v'isha out of the blue causes damage, breaks a window, they have to pay. They're responsible. So they have that sort of card against them, right? Still, we have the advantage, but when a shor kills an ish v'isha, he's chayiv misa, whether the shor is a tam or a muad. Certainly the youngster is a ben or bas, and they have the upper hand when it comes to causing damage, because we know that ben or bas underage are not responsible for their actions. They don't have to pay for damages that they do. So they have that added advantage. Doesn't it lend to reason that, once again, we won't differentiate between a shor who attacks them if the shor is a tam or a muad? We apply the same halacha to both. So bottom line is, we've now established that if a shor kills a ben or bas, he's chayiv just like he kills an ish v'isha, and it makes no difference whether the shor is a tam or a muad. Now, the question is, Amris, the response is like this: ultimately, the reason why we're concluding that the shor tam who kills a ben or bas is chayiv misa is because we find that the shor muad is chayiv for killing a ben or bas. So we say, look, we're not going to differentiate, right? That was the analogy we just worked through, right? We find there's no difference by the ish v'isha, certainly by the ben or bas, just like the shor muad is chayiv for killing the ben or bas. Same thing with the shor tam. Now, ultimately, you're basically drawing from the shor muad to the shor tam. Well, just like a shor muad is chayiv shor tam. How can you do that? How could you learn a shor tam who should be lighter, less guilty than a chamer, than a muad? To add a chumrah onto a tam? How do we know that? Just because the Torah was machmer by a muad who was meant to be chamer, tachmer b'tamat kal. Who says we're going to apply that to a tam? V'oid. Another point. You're ultimately equating it to an ish v'isha, an adult. In amras v'ish v'isha, there's room to differentiate. An ish v'isha, they're fully responsible for their actions. They do mitzvahs. Toimer ben Abbas, as opposed to a young son or daughter, shebtur min mitzvahs. There's no chiyav mitzvahs. So perhaps that's another reason to be lenient, not to hold the shor so liable. So bottom line is, these analogies don't really work well. That's why we need a pasuk to actually prove. Talmud Leimar ben yigach bas yigach. And the question is, why the repetition? You could have just said ben bas yigach, ben yigach bas yigach. We repeat the word yigach to tell you, well, the shor who kills a youngster is chayiv under all circumstances. Nigicha b'tam, nigicha b'mhud, nigicha l'misa, nigicha l'nizakan. We equate the youngsters to the adults, whether it pertains to misa, pertains to nizakan, to damages, whether the shor who attacked is a tam or a mud, he's chayiv just as much. Continues the Mishnah. So the shor was sort of scratching himself against the wall, and due to his massive size and weight, there goes the wall of Nafal Adam and toppled over a person and killed him. So he killed a person, but it wasn't necessarily intentional. Or another example of unintentional killing: the shor intended on attacking an animal. Unintentionally he killed a person. L'knani, varag ben Yisrael, a guy ended up being a yid, l'nefalim, varag ben kayama. It was meant to be a non-viable child victim, ended up being a healthy child. Pater, in all these cases, the shor does not get skila. But what about kaifer payment, the compensation to the victim's family? Amar Shmuel, that you pay. Pater misa, okay, you don't have misa because it was not miskaven. And Rashi brings the Gemara later, Kimisas ha'balim, kach misas ha'shor, that the skila applied to the animal is similar in fashion to the misa applied to to a person who kills another person, and that's only if he intentionally did it. But if it was accidental, he's pater. So pater and misa, okay, v'chayv b'kaifer, but the owner has to give kaifer, because as we learned the other day, we have a drasha, it says im kaifer yushas alav. The extra word im is telling you even in a case where shalei b'kavana kaifer payment is issued. Rav Amar, he disagrees. No misa, no kaifer, pater mizeh mizeh. Now, why would you even consider paying kaifer, which is unique for a muad? Here, he's not a muad. It was unintentional. It was just a one-time accident. V'amay hotamhu. Answers the Gemara, no. This was something that was repetitive. He was doing it over and over. Kedama Rav, as Rav tells us later on in the Daf Ches. This animal was known to sort of, fall onto people in pits. So it's true, it was unintentional. He tried, he was trying to reach in, but this animal had a track record for falling onto people inside pits. Hachanami here as well, we're speaking this animal habitually does this. He scrapes himself against his walls and knocks it over onto the people. Well, Yachabar Katolu, then he put the shor to death. Basically, it's intentional. How could you say it's unintentional if he's doing it all the time? I can understand in the case of the shor falling into the bur, that could have been unintentional. The chaza he saw some greenery, something to eat, and he leans in and he falls in, and he does it over and over again. He has this habit of curiously looking into burres to see if there's any food, and ultimately he falls into the bur. But here, if he's pushing walls over, then that's not accidental. He wasn't just aggressively knocking walls down. He was itching, so he was scratching himself against the wall, and he does this over and over. It's a habit that he has. How do we know this is going through the shor's mind? The basa the nafal because even after the wall collapses, you see he's still scraping against it. So apparently that was his plan. Well, but there still would not be any kaifer consideration, because the kaifer payment is only by direct damages. Rashi says by negicha, which is gufa, directly from the animal. But here it's stroris. Stroris is a term describing indirect damages, like flicking a pebble. So, the wall knocked over is not a direct hit from the shor. Why would you have kaifer payment? There is a direct damage here as well. He sort of was scraping against the wall, but as the wall was falling, he just kept on following the wall down. So in fact, he directly killed the person on the bottom. Now, we have Machlekes Rabbi Shmuel, in this case where he killed by way of knocking down a wall, unintentional, accidental, but he was a muad for doing so, because he does this all the time. There's no chiv mis on the shor. What about chiv kaifer? Shmuel says yes, Rav says no. Tanika would say the Shmuel, we have to the Rav. We're going to have a brisa in support of Shmuel, and there is kaifer payment by unintentional killing, and it's going to be a kasha on Rav who says there is no payment. We have a brisa which delineates all four categories. Yeish chai b'misa u'b'kaifer. This is a shor who killed a person. At times, The shar is chayiv misa, and the owner has to pay kaifer. So a check on both. V'yesh chayiv b'kaifer, apavat misa. In other cases, there is kaifer payment, a check there, but there's no chayiv misa on the shar. V'yesh chayiv b'misa apavat kaifer. Sometimes the other way. There's chayiv misa but no kaifer. V'yesh patam mizeh. And you have a case where there's an X on both. There's no chayiv misa and no chayiv kaifer. Okay, so let's go through all the cases, all the possibilities. Muad b'kavana, chai b'misa v'kaifer. So let's say the animal was known to kill people, right? And he did it, b'kavana, intentionally killed a person. The animal's put to death, and kaifer payment is issued. Muad shalei b'kavana. He was a muad, but he killed unintentionally. Chai b'kaifer. Oh, this is the right to shmol, right? So there's no misa, but there's kaifer. Chai b'kaifer, patur b'misa. Then we have tam, a shor is just a shor tam, and he killed a person intentionally, b'kavana. Chai b'misa, because when it comes to misa on the shor, it doesn't matter if he's a muad or a tam. If he kills a person, he gets skila, but no kaifer. That's only for a muad, a patur mikaifer. Tam shalei b'kavana. Finally, we have a tam who killed accidentally. Patur mizeh. There's an X on both. No chiv misa, no chiv kaifer. So bottom line is we have a raya to shmol that a muad shalei b'kavana has no misa, but yes kaifer. And then we have one more point here. What about a shor who caused damage? He inflicted harm. But it was unintentional. We hadn't yet discussed that. Is the shor liable or not? I should say, is the owner have to pay or not? Rabbi Yehuda machayiv, Rabbi Shimon poit. Rabbi Yehuda says pay, Rabbi Shimon says don't pay. Why? My time with Rabbi Yehuda, who says you pay, yolaf mikaifer, because he equates it to the kaifer payment upon killing his victim. Ma kaifer shalei b'kavana chayiv. Just like by kaifer, we've just established that even shalei b'kavana you pay kaifer. Afan is zaken. Now shalei b'kavana chayiv. Likewise, when it comes to damages, you pay as well. Rabbi Shimon, no. Rabbi Shimon says, sure, we'll equate it, but we'll equate it to the misa of the shor. Yolaf miktali the shor. We compare the damage payments to the misa imposed on the shor. Just like by misa of the shor, if it was shlei b'kavana, the shor doesn't get misa, right? Afn izakan, shlei b'kavana pater. Same thing with damages. Why doesn't Rabbi Yehuda compare it to misa of the shor and learn like Rabbi Shimon? He has a reason for that. Donen tashlumen mitashlumen. He prefers learning payments from payments. So damage payments from kaifer payments, and put them on the same track. Ve'in donen tashlumen misa, as opposed to learning damage payments from misa, which is a totally different realm. Rabbi Shimon nami neilf mikaifer. Oh, back to Rabbi Shimon. So why doesn't he learn damage payments from kaifer payments, which are both monetary payments? The answer is done in chiyuv d'shar mechiv d'shar. He prefers learning the chiyuv misa. The chiyuv nizaken that comes on account of the shar's damaging. So basically, he's compensating for what the shar did. He'd rather learn that mechiv d'shar from chiyuv misa, which is also applied to the shar. Lafuki kaifer, as opposed to kaifer payment, which isn't really connected to the shar. I mean, the shar brought it about. It's just causation, but ultimately Rashi says it's kaparas nafshe. It's a totally different type of arrangement. It's a pidyon, it's a redemption for the owner of the animal. So it's a totally different thing, which Rabbi Shimon does not want to equate to tashlumi nezek. Rather, he compares it to the misa of the shar, and therefore, just like there's no chiv misa for unintentional killing. Likewise, chiv nezaken as well. So bottom line is, a shor kills a person, whether the shor is a tam or a muad, he's put to death. When it comes to kaifer, that only applies to a shor muad. What about a shor muad that killed shlei b'kavana? There's no misa there, but kaifer, Shmuel says yes, Rav said no. We have a riot to Shmuel from the Brisa. Next question, what about a shor who's mazik, shlei b'kavana? We have machlekes, Rabbi Yehuda Rav Shimon. Continues the Gemara. Niskavad laragas habeim avarg sa'adam pater. Okay, so the Mishnah says if the animal intended on killing another animal, but mistakenly hit a person, he's pater, because it was not meant for the person. But suppose he was trying to kill one man and he killed another. Tried Reuven and he hit Shimon. In that case, he is chayav, even though it wasn't meant for Shimon. Now that's a big shaila. It's actually a machlekes, because according to Reb Shimon, just like if a person tried to attack Reuven and he attacked Shimon, he'll be pater. We're going to learn from a pasuk soon. Same thing with an animal. So Masnisin look Rab Shimon. We're not going with Rab Shimon. The Sanya Rab Shimon. Oimar filu neskavein la regezev or regezev potter. Even if a person intended on killing Reuven, so he intended to kill, but he killed the wrong person. He's potter. Same thing with the animal. My time with Rab Shimon. Why? Why is Rab Shimon exempting him? The Amar Krah, the pasuk says. Sorry, so Rab Shimon here is speaking about the animal. It's going on the animal. Because it's just like the din of a person. My time with the Reb Shimon, the pasuk equates, pasuk compares an animal who attacks to a person who attacked. Harshar yisakal v'gam ba'alav yumas. So the pasuk here is sort of connecting the owner of the animal's liabilities to the animal itself's liabilities. Harshar yisakal v'gam ba'alav yumas. So we say kimisas habalim kach misas hashar. The misa applied to a shur when he kills a person is, sort of follows the same system as if a person attacks somebody else. So the misa applied to a person who attacks and kills another person has the same, they follow the same guidelines. Ma balim atu mechavan le, just like by a person, he's only liable to misa. Bezin only applies misa if he intended on killing this specific victim. Avshar nami adam chavanle. The same thing with misa to the shar. It's only applicable if he had this victim in mind. Ubalim gufay minolan. Okay, so we say shar is like the owner, but what about the owner himself? How do we know that if he hit the wrong person, he's pot minolan? Now, Makro, the pasuk says, "V'arav loy v'kamalav." So he ambushed this person, attacked this person. Achis kavan loy, it had to be intended for him. That's Rav Shimon's shita. So if a person intended on killing Reuven and killed Shimon, he's potter from Misa, and same with the animal. Rabbanan who disagree, Rabbanan say if he intended on killing a person, be it this person or the other, and ultimately he did kill somebody, he's chayiv Misa. So what do they do with the pasuk v'arav loy, which was Reb Shimon's source? What do they do with it? What do they apply it to? Amrit v'Rabbi Yanai. So the answer is like this: it's coming to exempt something else. Prat, as opposed to, in the following case, there will not be misa. Prat lezorik even legoy. So there's a group of people, and this person takes a big stone and he throws it in the direction of the group of people. Okay, without anybody specific in mind, but he knows ultimately it's going to hit somebody out of the group and kill somebody. In that case, he's potter, because it's lacking in specificity. It's not v'arav loy. Now, what exactly happened? Who's there? What is this group comprised of? Who are the members of this group? 9 goyim and 1 yid. Well, of course he's potter for doing this. Forget about the pasuk v'arav loy. You don't need a pasuk. The grand majority, 9 out of 10 are goyim, so throwing into this type of group will not bring any liability, because his action, his throwing the stone, most likely would have hit a guy, so it cannot be defined as an act of murder against the yid, because with 9 out of 10, 90% chance it would hit a guy. So he's potter for doing that act. You don't need a pasuk. It's simple. It's obvious you're potter. Inami palgo. And even if it's 5 and 5, safek neflash is lahakal. So there's an uncertainty, 50-50 chance how to determine whether to determine his act as an act of ritzicha on the yid or not. So once again, we have to go to kula. You can't kill a person with an uncertainty. So either way, he would be potter without a pasuk. Ritzicha, so it must be speaking that there is an overwhelming majority of Yidden members of this group. Dika Tisha Yisraelim v'echad Kanani. 9 Yisraelim amongst the group and 1 guy. And the chiddush is the afik of the Ruba Yisraelim ninu. Even though the vast majority, 9 out of 10 are Yisraelim, he's still going to be potter for throwing a stone into this group. Kiven Dika Echad Kanani v'nayu. Since ultimately there's 1 guy amongst them, havli kavua, and he's established there. They're standing together. That's called kavua. V'chol kavua. Whenever we have an element which is established in its place, it no longer mixes with the rest. It doesn't sort of get drawn after the majority. It has its own identity. It retains its own independence, and it has to be reckoned with on its own. We treat it like 50-50. Because basically, this stone could have hit a Yisrael or a guy. Now, although you have 9 out of 10 Yisrael, it doesn't matter. The one Kanani amongst them does not get enveloped or bottled or drawn after the Rav. He doesn't become any less significant because he's kavua. He's an established, a dependent entity. So we treat it like as if there's just 2 choices: Yisrael or Goy. And that's what we say, since there's an uncertainty as to what he had in mind. The throw could have been sort of meant for the Yid or for the Goy. So the pasuk saying you potter. Now here's not just a simple basic case of safek nefesh lahakol. When there were really 5 Yisraelim and 5 Canaanim, you don't need a pasuk for that. But here there's 9 Yisraelim, and still we say it's safek nefesh lahakol because the Torah here with the words va'arav lo is telling us this idea of kavua. And Rashi says this actually is the makar, the source wherever we have kavua throughout Shas. It comes from this pasuk. That when we have a mix, a real mix, so we follow the Rav. But when it's kavua, meaning each item, or in this case, each person sort of standing on his own, kavua, established in this place, we don't mix them up. They're not all part of the same equation. So each one is sort of an independent entity that has to be reckoned with on his own. And now you're dealing with simply a 50-50 chance. Did I hit the Yisrael? Did I hit the guy? And that's why we go to Kula. Okay, so bottom line is, according to Reb Shimon, a person would be pater, likewise an animal. According to Rabbanan, chayiv. The pasuk v'arav loy, which according to Reb Shimon taught us the ptur of niskav l'harag zeh v'harag zeh, according to Rabbanan is teaching us the idea of kavua k'mechza mechzedami. Okay, one more Mishnah. Shara isha, a bull that belongs to a woman. V'shara yisayim belongs to orphans who have no administrator. Or let's say they do have an administrator looking after their property. Shar HaMidbar, you have a ownerless bull sitting in the desert. Shar HaHegdesh, or belonging to Hegdesh. Shar HaGer She'em Meis Ve'en Lo Yarshim, a shar that belongs to a ger that died without any heirs. So basically it's just hefker. Any one of these bulls attacks and kills, Harei Elu Chayav Misa, we apply Misa. Rabbi Yehuda, no. He has to have an owner, as opposed to Shar HaMidbar. Shar HaHegdesh doesn't have a regular owner. Shar HaGer Shemeis Ve'en Lo Yarshim. All these Abturim and Amisa, why? They're not owned. Says the Bryce. Once again, we have this machlekes. Rabbi Yehuda requires an owner in order to trigger Misa, and the Rabbanan disagree. Tan Rabbanan. Shar Shiva. We have 7 mentionings of the word Shar in the parsha of the Shar attacking. 7 times. It's coming to add all these cases. Lahavi Shara Isha, Shara Yisayim, Shara Petropus. Right? You would think maybe, it says, the pasuk describes the owner as Baal Ashar, perhaps in a male form. But if it's owned by an Isha, he's not Chayib. No. Shara Isha, Shara Yisayim, Shara Petropus, Shara Hamidbar, Shara Hegdesh, Shara Ger Shemeis Ve'en Lo Yarshim. So all these are included. Rabbi Yehuda disagrees. Rabbi Yehuda Aimer, Shara Hamidbar, Shara Hegdesh, Shara Ger Shemeis Ve'en Lo Yarshim. Turim and Amisa, Misa is not applied even if they kill somebody. You know why? Lefi she'ein lehem baal, because they don't have an owner. And the pasuk, relates to the shur as a shur who's owned. It says v'huad b'va'alav, there has to be an owner. Says the Gemara. Amar Rav Huna, here comes a chiddush. Poiter, Hayir Rabbi Yehuda afilu nogach l'b'seif hikdash. Rabbi Yehuda exempts even a shur who attacks and then was placed in Hegdesh's hands. So despite the fact that during the attack he was owned by an ordinary person, but since ultimately by the time they got around to dealing with it, he's now owned by Hegdesh, who's not considered an ordinary owner, the shur has no misa. The same with Hefker. Nogach, he attacked, Ulbasayf Hefker, and then the owner made him Hefker, he's Pater, Memaya. How do I know that Rabbi Yehuda will hold to that? Because take a look at the Mishnah. We seem to find a repetition. 2 examples of the same idea. Rabbi Yehuda is looking to describe a shur who has no owner. Right? So we have Shar HaMidbar, roaming the deserts, with Shar HaGer Shemeis Ve'en Lo Yarshim. A ger who owned him, who died, right? Isn't that just another example of Hefker? Like the bull in the desert. Shar HaGer Shemeis Mayniu. Well, what's the point of this case? The Kivan the Emo Yarshin Havali Shar Hefker. There are no heirs, there are no Yerushin. So it's Hefker, Hainu Shar Midbar. It's exactly what the Shar Midbar is. Hainu Shar Hager Shemen Meis Ve'en Yerushin. So Midbar and Ger Shemeis, all the same thing. Why repeat it? Elo Lava Kamash once. Apparently Rabbi Yehuda is coming to teach us an additional element as well. Ta'afilu Nogach al B'Sayf Higdish. Nogach al B'Sayf Hivker. Not only a Shar that's Hefker all throughout, from the attack until today, but even a shar which was owned at the time of attack. He belonged to a ger, but then he died and left no Yerushim, so now he turned Hefker. He was Pater as well. Shema Mina. So that proves our point. Tani Nami Hachu, we find the same in a Brisa. That what? According to Rabbi Yehuda, the animal has to be owned all throughout the system, from when he attacked until the Bezdin got involved. Tani Nami Hachu. Yasser Akin, Rabbi Yehuda added another element. Afilu Nogach, and then he was Magdish. Ubasayv Igdish. Nogach Ubasayv Hifker. All these cases are Pater from Misa Shenemar. V'uad b'va'alav, needs to be an owner around. V'hemes ashdei Misa v'mod b'din shal ke'echad. From the point of the attack until the Bezdin got involved, it has to be owned by the same person. It can't be a Hefker. But only until Bezdin gets involved, v'mod b'din, only until the trial begins. What about the verdict? Doesn't it have to be owned until then as well? You don't need the Gemar Din to be in a state of ownership. This very pasuk that you just quoted discusses the Gemar Din as well, the skill that's applied to the Shar. Ela rather will revise like this. You're right. It has to be owned from A to Z. It has to be owned from the time that he attacked the Misa and throughout the trial until the verdict of Bezdin was issued. It has to be Shavin Ke'echad. It cannot be a Sher Hefker according to Rabbi Yehuda. Okay, so conclusion, a Shar attacks a person, whether an adult or a child, he gets Misa, whether he's a Tam or he's a Muad, we have Psukim for that. A Shar that kills unintentionally, there's no Misa to the Shar, but according to Shmuel there's Kaifer, and we have a Raya from a Brisa as such. A Shar that intended on killing Reuven, but he killed Shimon, according to Reb Shimon, it's Pater. We have a Pasuk, according to Rabban, is Chayiv. What about a Shar that has no owner? Or Shar belonging to Hegdish? According to Bava Kamma, we have 7 times Shar, including all these cases. Rabbi Yehuda disagrees. It has to be owned by an ordinary person, and otherwise he's exempt from Misa. All the best to you, Psuras Tevis, and Atzlacha Rabbah.